When I say the word football, what comes to mind? Do you picture Odell Beckham's insane overhead catch? Maybe you think about the tailgate parties outside of the stadium that can get a little too rowdy. Well, what if I were to tell you that the real football is a game that is only played with your feet? There's no quarterback or running back, but 22 players trying to shoot a ball into a net. Sounds familiar, right? That's because football is the legitimate name for the sport of soccer. There are records of football dating back 2,000 years in ancient Rome, China, and Greece. The first record of a game played with only the feet is found in the 3rd century BC in China. A game known as Tous Chu was a version of the game that is played today. Tous Chu was actually a military exercise used to condition soldiers. One of the main differences to today's game is that there were 6 nets on each side instead of 1. The object of the game was exactly the same as today's. As time went on, the English developed their own style of the game. At first, there were no rules. This made King James I of Scotland ban football in 1424 as he declared "na man play at the football." Eventually, around the 1800s, the first rules were created by a board of 12 English private schools. 11 out of the 12 schools decided that the no-hand rule was a crucial part of the game and it must be implemented. Throughout the years, the rules and equipment of the sport have not had a drastic change. When football first started, equipment was very basic and shin pads didn't exist. The first cleats, or boots, were made out of leather that went up to the ankle and were fairly heavy. The ball was also made out of leather, which made it heavy and even more heavy if it rained as it soaked up the water. This made playing extremely difficult. Shin pads were not brought into the game until 1874 when a cricket player strapped on his modified cricket pads to his shins. Nowadays, the equipment is still used, however it is much more modern. Cleats are made out of a cheaper and much lighter synthetic material, and the same goes for the balls and shin pads. Now let's get into the rules and how the game is played. According to FIFA, or the International Federation of Association Football, there are 17 laws that make up the game. The first law is the field of play. Football is played on a rectangular field with lines marked in the shape of a rectangle to act as boundaries. The lines that span lengthwards are called touch lines, while the lines of the width are called goal lines. The net or goal in which players shoot in to score must be 7.32 meters wide and 2.4 meters tall, and is placed at the center of each goal line. The penalty area spans across the goal line 18 yards from the inside of each goal post and goes up another 18 yards, where they both meet and create a box. Each penalty area, a mark is made 12 yards from the middle of each goal. This is the penalty spot. The goal area, or more commonly known as the 6-yard box, is a box that spans 6 yards across the goal line from each goal post and 6 yards up, creating the box. Lastly, a corner arc is made at each corner of the field with a radius of 1 yard. All these rules are specific to official FIFA match-regulated games. For other games, they can be modified to suit the field and its participants. The game is played with 2 teams, 11 v 11. 10 of the players are field players, while the one left is the goalkeeper. This is the only player who is allowed to handle the ball with his or her hands as long as it is within the penalty box. There's one more person on the field of play, the referee. His or her job is to enforce the laws of the game and to ensure it is played fairly. There are also 2 ARs, or assistant referees. These referees stand opposite to each other on the touchlines and make calls for the main referee if he cannot see them. The main way of playing is to use your feet and hit the ball up the field by using your teammates. Another way is by running up the field with the ball at your feet. This is known as dribbling. Shooting is the action of kicking the ball into the net of the opponents. When defending your goal from the opposite team, you will have to try to get the ball from the opponent. This can be done by making a tackle. A tackle is considered to be fair as long as you make contact with the ball first before making contact with the other player. If there is only contact with the player and not the ball, this can be deemed a foul. If your team commits a foul, play is stopped and the other team is given possession of the ball. This is known as a free kick. Depending on the type of foul, a player may be carded. There are 2 types of card that each determine what type of foul was committed. A yellow card is shown to a player that has been cautioned. A red card is shown to a player that has been sent off or not allowed to continue playing. This is a more severe offense, and this can be due to spitting, racial slurring, or for a tackle that had no intention to play the ball. The ball is in play as long as it stays within the boundaries of the rectangle. However, if the ball does leave the field, there is a short stoppage in play and there are 3 outcomes that determine how the game is restarted. If the ball leaves the sidelines or touch lines, the game is restarted with a throw-in for whichever team did not touch the ball last before it went out. If the ball leaves via the goal line of the opposite team and your team touched it last, this is known as a goal kick, and play restarts with the goals of the opposite team kicking the ball from his 6-yard box. However, if a team touches the ball last and it goes out on their own touch line, a corner kick is taken for the opposite team. Each game is played for 90 minutes with 2 halves of 45 minutes each. However, if there is a delay in the game, per se an injury or another disturbance, the ref might add on time. This is called stoppage time. This is why you might see a game in the 94th minute. 4 minutes were added on. Once time is up, there are 4 ways to determine the outcome of the game. The first is a draw. The score is tied and the game is over. The second and most known is classic. This is where the referee will add on 2 more halves of 15 minutes each to see if a team can take the lead. Even if a team scores, the game is not over, and both teams have a chance to tie it up or score more goals. Third is golden goal. This rule is fairly rare, but it starts out the same as classic. The ref will assign an extra 15-minute halves to see if someone can score a goal. However, unlike classic, once a team scores, the game is over, hence golden goal. Lastly is penalty shootout. This can occur after both classic and golden goal if the game still remain tied. Both teams take turns taking shots from the penalty spot. This is the best of 5 shots. However, if all 5 shots are missed, it will keep going until someone misses. Before you actually start to play the game, you will need to know a little bit more about the laws. Law number 3, number of players. As I mentioned before, there is 11v11 players on the field at once. Each team is allowed to make 3 changes or substitutions during the 90-minute period. Once a team has used all 3 subs, they cannot make any more. In non-professional leagues, the amount of subs is unlimited. Law number 4, the player's equipment. Every player must wear socks, shorts, shirts, and shin pads. Both teams must wear colors that are completely different from each other. A player is not allowed to wear jewelry, but any player with religious article of clothing are permitted to wear them. Law number 14, the penalty kick. A penalty kick is awarded against a team that commits a foul to the opposing team inside its own penalty area. When the kick is awarded, the ball must be placed on the penalty mark. All other players except the kicker and the goalie must be outside of the 18-yard box behind the ball. During the penalty kick, the goalie must remain on his or her own respective goal line and can't step off until the ball has been touched by the kicker. If the goalie saves the ball and it goes back into the field of play, the ball is live and play resumes. Law 10, method of scoring. In order for the goal to be valid, the entire ball must cross the goal line between the 2 posts. Back then, if there was a discrepancy in whether it was a goal or not, it was up to the referee's eyes to tell him whether it was a goal or not. Nowadays, there is the help of VAR, or Video Assistant Referee. This camera, also known as Hawkeye, sends a signal to the referee's watch in seconds letting him know if it was a goal or not. Law 11, the offside. Essentially, try to imagine an imaginary parallel line across the last defender of the other team. If you are behind that line and you receive the ball from your teammate, you are in an offside position. This will result in a free kick for the other team. You cannot be offside in your own half, and as I mentioned before, the AR has the job of calling the offside, as he is on the touchline. Football has been in the Summer Olympics since 1908, and women's football was added in 1996. This is one of the biggest watched sporting events in Olympic history. FIFA has officially stated that there are 6 divisions of soccer worldwide, each containing a certain amount of leagues. CONCACAF, CONMEBOL, UEFA, AFC, CAF, and OFC are the 6 leagues. However, the top division with the most respected and known player is the UEFA leagues. Here you have leagues like the Premier League, Serie A, and Bundesliga. Lastly, the FIFA World Cup, which is probably the most coveted trophy in all the game, happens every 4 years, with the first one starting in 1930. The World Cup brings nations together, a country all under one roof, and the winner not only gets the title of the best footballing country in the world, but they also receive the Gold World Cup. Lastly, football is the best game in the world, and it is because of that anyone can play it. There are specific leagues for those who have disabilities. One of the biggest ones is blind football. which is played on a modified pitch, which is smaller, and it's 5v5. Another one is amputee soccer, where players play with crutches, and some of them only having one leg and one arm.